Hey everyone! So for years, software engineering has felt like the golden ticket, right? A super secure, high-paying career that seemed totally immune to all the automation hitting other jobs. Well, with the explosion of AI, that whole idea is kind of being shattered. Let's dive into what that really means for the future of coding.
So we gotta ask the big question right up front. Is software engineering still a safe career? I mean, it's a question on everyone's mind, whether you're a student trying to pick a major or a senior dev with decades of experience. Today, we're gonna break down what's actually going on. And, the answer might surprise you.
Okay, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll pick apart that idea of the super secure coding job. Then, we'll look at this historical pattern, how skilled trades always seem to go from this special craft to just another commodity. We'll see how software fits that mold perfectly, check out a huge layoff that's a major signal, and then figure out what skills are actually still rare. And finally, we'll talk about what this means for the whole profession. For the better part of 2 decades, a job in software has felt like a sure thing. I mean, the demand was endless, the salaries just kept going up, and everyone thought the work was just too creative, too complex to ever be automated. But as we're about to see, that entire belief, it might be built on some pretty shaky ground. Now, what's fascinating is that everything happening to software, it's not new, not at all. In fact, it's following this super predictable cycle that has totally transformed skilled jobs for centuries. This journey from a specialized craft to a mass-market commodity, it's a path we've seen time and time again. To really get this, let's jump back to the 1860s. There was this one shirt factory in New Haven that replaced 1,600 highly skilled seamstresses with just 400 sewing machines. And the wild part? They produced the exact same number of shirts. Demand for clothing didn't disappear. Heck no, it exploded. But the special pay, the premium for being able to sew by hand, poof! It vanished. The skill got baked right into the tool. And that story, it follows this really clear 4-stage pattern. It always starts with discovery. This is when the know-how is super rare and the pay is high. Think of the very first programmers writing raw machine code. Then you get professionalization with formal training, standard tools, high-level languages. After that comes commoditization. This is where tools like modern frameworks start to embed all that expertise, making the work more interchangeable, and wages start to flatten out. And that leads to the final stage, automation, where machines, or in our case, AI, start taking over all the routine stuff. So let's take that exact same pattern and lay it right over the history of software development. You're going to see it perfectly charts this journey from a kind of exclusive priesthood all the way to the commodity it's becoming today. Just look at this timeline. Back in the 50s to the 70s, you had the Guild era. Programmers were basically priests with secret knowledge of the hardware. Then, professionalization hits with computer science degrees and standard frameworks. And the last decade? It's been all about commoditization. Boot camps pumping out developers who can quickly assemble websites using pre-built parts, which makes their skills, well, replaceable. And that brings us to right now, today, the automation phase, with AI assistants starting to do that assembly work for us. And listen, this is not some far-off, futuristic idea. It's happening as we speak. According to Stack Overflow, a whopping 76% of developers are already using or planning to use AI coding assistants. That's more than 3 out of every 4. This shift is happening in real time on millions of screens around the world. Okay, so if the historical pattern and the stats still feel a bit abstract, let's look at a concrete and honestly pretty alarming real-world example. This is where the theory smacks right into reality, hard. So in February of 2024, Jack Dorsey's company Block announced they were cutting a huge chunk of their workforce. And this wasn't just a minor trim. No, this was a massive strategic move that sent a really powerful signal across the entire tech industry. And the company was crystal clear about why they were doing it. Their CFO said the goal was to, quote, move faster with smaller, highly talented teams using AI to automate more work. Get that? This wasn't a layoff because business was bad. It was a strategic choice to explicitly replace human work with artificial intelligence. And the weight of this was definitely not lost on people in the know. Tech investor Balaji Srinivasan called it the first AI-driven cut and predicted it would send shockwaves. His warning was pretty blunt. Get good now. Become indispensable, because the rules of the game are changing. Okay, so given all this new reality, what's left? If the routine coding work is getting automated, where do we as humans still provide value? This really gets to the most important question. What skills actually remain scarce?
First, let's just bust a really common myth. A lot of people argue that because the demand for software keeps growing, the jobs will be safe. But just remember those seamstresses. The demand for clothing went through the roof after the sewing machine was invented, but the high-paying jobs for sewing by hand, they disappeared. Demand for the product does not guarantee high pay for the labor that creates it.
So this means the value is shifting away from just writing basic code and back towards the kind of craft that AI can't easily copy. You can think of it in 4 big areas. First, deep systems and architecture knowledge, really understanding how everything works under the hood. Second, cross-disciplinary integration, knowing how to apply software to complex physical fields like biotech or energy. Third, accountability and ethics. That's the human judgment you absolutely need when software is running our hospitals or driving our cars. And finally, the tool builders, the people who are actually creating the next wave of AI and automation tools themselves.
Which brings us to our big conclusion here. We are watching the end of the middle for the software world. The very definition of what it means to be a software engineer is shifting right under our feet. So what does that really mean? It means software engineering isn't a custom craft anymore. It's becoming infrastructure, kind of like the electrical grid. The real value isn't in connecting one more wire to a house. It's in designing the entire power grid. In the same way, the value is shifting from writing one more line of code to architecting the whole system. That broad middle class of coders, the ones who mainly assemble pre-built parts, they're the ones most at risk. So we'll leave you with this final thought. Maybe coding, the physical act of typing syntax into a computer, was never the truly scarce skill. Maybe the real scarcity was always in deep understanding. Understanding the system, understanding the user, understanding all the trade-offs. All AI is doing is making that distinction clearer than it has ever been. So the question for all of us is, are you prepared for that shift?